Hey guys, and welcome back to FPVTech. Today I have the brand new Stingy Frame. This just came out yesterday. The first shipment just sent and I got one. And this just came in the mail a few hours ago. Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Stingy Frame, the highlights over it, as well as my personal build and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let's start off with the frame itself. The frame weighs 110 grams and will cost you $115. And for premium frames, that's a very reasonable price because you're looking at a very high quality frame here. Now, first and foremost, you can see this is a very strong frame. There's next to no flex in the frame, and you have 4 millimeter arms, a 1.5 millimeter bottom plate, and a 2 millimeter top plate, as well as a 1.5 locking plate down here. But that's just to assemble it. And so it comes with all the plates are already beveled, so you have rounded edges everywhere on the quad. Every single piece of carbon fiber is like that. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to worry about delamination across the carbon fiber. And that helps with not cutting anything. So if you have wires running around the side, it's not going to slowly chew through your wires during crashes, and it's not going to snap your battery straps. And speaking of the carbon fiber again, this is a 3K twill weave carbon fiber. So again, a very high quality carbon fiber. This is a true X frame, so the distance between these two arms, or the motor mounts, is the same distance between these two mounts. And the great thing about that is you're going to have a very locked in feel flying this quad. If your pitch is longer, or your forward and back is longer than your width, then your pitch is going to be a lot snappier because it has more leverage than it would on your roll. With this, you're going to have an even roll and pitch motion each way, and it's going to allow for a very locked in and tight feel when you tune the quad. Also, this has longer arms than a lot of freestyle quads, which again will increase stability and the lock-in potential. So, this has 20 millimeter standoffs, which is also very different for a freestyle frame. A lot of freestyle frames will go with the 28, but with the 20, you have a low profile frame, and that means your center of gravity, instead of being up here above the quad where the battery would be, is going to be right in the center where you want it. So one downside of 20 millimeter standoffs is your flight camera can't fit in there. So what they did is they put a protective bar underneath the frame right here. So your camera mounts, and then it will stick out the bottom, a little bit out the top, but when you crash, that bar right there will protect that camera. The camera won't shift, it won't move, and it will stay very locked in. Also, this is designed for a run cam, and there are certain Foxeers that have that back lock right there, but run cams are known for it. So that allows you to have your screw-in axis right there, and then your angle lock right there. So you're gonna have a very locked-in camera, so you're gonna have low jello and very little motion during crashes, if any. You probably shouldn't have any. So, this also has full titanium hardware. The standoffs and screws are all titanium, so you get that benefit of being light, as well as the strength of steel. So this thing can take a beating. You're not going to have to worry about the carbon fiber breaking, really, or your hardware snapping. So it's a very durable quad, and I'll get to that more as I fly it more and test it more. I'll do another review video showing what I think about that more. But you shouldn't have an issue. So, as I was saying before, this is a top-mounted battery, which that has its own benefits that come along with it. Unlike a bottom-mounted battery, you can land and take off perfectly flat. When you crash and roll, if you land upright, you should easily be able to take right off, because you have little legs that are going to go on right here, which make it stand flat when it's landed. But if the battery was underslung, it'd be tilted when it crashed and sitting like that, and it's hard to get it to going and take off, and when you crash it's hard to recover and go again. But with that top mounted battery, you'll have that option, or the benefit of being able to take off and land very easily and not have to worry about crashing and hitting your motors and having to go move it around. Speaking of motors, this will take a 22 or 23 size motor. I'm running personally 2207s, And then you also get some nice grip mounts. I don't have mine on here yet, but you have a sticky bottom that will stick over the frame right here where your battery sits, so your battery won't be shifting. It as well comes with 2 battery straps that have sticky inner lining, so your battery shouldn't be shifting there either. Now, I had one issue with building this frame. The arms slide in here and get locked between these 2 plates. However, for my 3mm standoffs for my flight controller, a standard 3mm nut doesn't fit in that hole where you should be able to fit a nut. So what I had to do is take a Dremel and shave down the nut to where it could fit in there. So that could cause an issue for some people if you don't have a Dremel. I guarantee there's nuts out there that would fit this, circular nuts, but I didn't have any on hand. So that's the only downside I've seen so far with building the frame. Now, moving on to my personal build and what I'm doing. I'm using the RunCam Rotorite Edition, which has a nice GoPro lens, so I have a 170-degree view, which for freestyle, which is what I'm building this frame for, is fantastic. And as well as being that RunCam, you have that lock for the back again. I'm running Speedix IS 30 amps, or 30 amp ESCs, and they're running D-Shot 600. These are my personal favorite ESCs right now. I'm running them on all my builds. As well as the Betaflight flight controller, which I'm also running on all my builds. For an all-in-one flight controller, you can't beat this right now. It has a black box spot, it has a PDB and flight controller all built in one, OSD, a bunch of run-through ports. Like, this is an amazing flight controller. And there are a bunch of videos that you can go see more details on that. I'm using the Spectrum Diversity receiver. What else would you be using with Spectrum? And then I am using the Tramp HV, which is very hard to get right now. Luckily, I was able to get one. And with that, I can use my wand to quickly change channels, powers, and bands. And one thing I almost forgot to mention is this frame already has a pre-designed GoPro mount for it, specifically designed to fit on the frame, not get in the way of your flight camera, and they're specifically designed to not see your props in the shot. So 30 degree or 40 degree, you won't see your props for recording videos. And then, after the camera, I'm using these brand new Multicopter Builder Primo 2207 2650 kilovolt motors. These look amazing and they feel fantastic, but they just came out a few weeks ago, so there's not a whole lot of information on them right now. So I'm taking a little bit of a risk going for these. If they turn out to go bad, I recommend using the Hyperlight 2206 2522 kilovolts. That's what I was going to run, but I decided to go with these instead. And they weigh 28 grams with short wires and 30 grams with their full length. So they're pretty light motors, and personally, that's what I like. Like with the Hyperlights, I would get the naked bottoms because I want it to be light on the edge of the quad so you can have that snappy motion. If it's heavy out on the edges, it's going to be hard for this thing to transition speeds and transition its rotation. And with that, that is everything. So I'm going to get into building this thing, go do some test flies, come back, talk about it again, and there'll be some flight footage at the end of this video.
Whenever your heart is broken, don't ever forget you're golden. I will find the light in your soul. I'll be there. Never leaving you in the darkness, even when you're out of focus. I will be the light in your life, you'll see it clear. I'll be your inspiration, 'cause I know that you'll do just what you're told. I'll be your heart and temptation, 'cause I know that you'll make it on your own.
guys, so I just finished the build process and I want to go over some tips and why I did what I did real quick. So I mounted my tramp right above the flight controller here, and my antenna comes out the back. I put my receiver right here at the back of the frame, and that was so I can mount my antennas horizontally and vertically to the frame. And that's so in any flip or roll, I always have radio signal. This just will give you better signals when you put your antennas going 2 different directions like that. Versus a 45 on a race quad, you're not going to be flipping as much, but for freestyle, I recommend your antennas like that. Now, I put my buzzer right behind the flight controller, or right between the receiver chip. And I like a buzzer in my freestyles because when you crash, and it's inevitable you're going to crash. If you go in a bush or get trapped in a tree, the buzzer helps you find where you are. Also, with the tramp, I initially mounted mine right down in here. But I forgot the wand virtually has to touch the chip for it to work. So I ended up mounting it right here on top, and my battery sits all the way in back anyway, so that works out. I also waterproofed my entire quad using silicone conformal coating and Corrosive X. If you guys would like me to go over how to waterproof your quad in the future, let me know in the comments. Now, in my maiden flight, I used stock PIDs, so there is some wobble and bounce back, but I want you guys to see that maiden footage. So that should be on screen any second. And I did end up tuning it later, and I got it nearly perfect. And now I want to talk about how that went, and the pros and cons of the actual frame. So, some pros real quick. The low profile, the 20mm standoffs, results in a very inlined CG along with the motors. This gives the quad a very locked-in feel along with the true X frame. And that true X frame being a little bit bigger than most mini quads does help give that locked-in feel. So, I also love the camera mount right here for the run cams. This makes sure you don't strip your screws when you have those 2 mounting screws like that. And I get no jello, and the camera doesn't move a bit. And that's something that I don't have in any other of my frames, so that is a very nice touch. The GoPro mount that you can buy for this for $15, I highly recommend if you're making videos. You don't get any props in the footage. The GoPro fits nice and snug in there, although it is a pain in the butt to get in and out just because of how snug it is. And you're just going to get good footage. Also, the top-mounted battery of the quad gives you the ability to put feet underneath, so you can land and take off a lot easier. And when you crash, if you land upright, you're not going to have to worry about your props being stuck in the ground. You should be able to take right off. Also, it just looks great. Now, I have a few cons of the build. One is the mounting of the flight controller, and I know you can put screws through it and then put your standoffs there. That's what you're supposed to do with this kind of frame. However, with what I had on hand, I had to do mine that way, as I showed earlier in the build. Also, this frame is a bit heavier. It is heavy for a mini quad, and you feel that while flying, but it is still a powerhouse. I still get good punches with it. This thing flies great, and it is very powerful. It's just not what you're going to be looking for if you want to race. Now, my conclusion. If you want to race, go with something along the size of a pod, like the Schizo frame. Something that's lighter and going to be able to give you more punch per gram. Versus something like this. This frame is incredibly locked in. When you make a movement, it stays there. It's super maneuverable, it's super controllable, and it is locked in. It just has that feeling when you fly a frame or a new quad that you know this is going to be a good quad once you get it tuned perfectly. For freestyle, that locked in feeling, that being able to control your quad so easily, and being able to have that really center of gravity is very important and very sought after in freestyle frames. So for freestyle, I highly recommend this frame. And that top-mounted battery versus the underslung, you're not going to be dragging your weight along, again, with that very center of gravity. So, I absolutely love this frame. Off of first impression, I recommend it. If you're looking for freestyle, I highly recommend it. But I do need to fly it more, tune it a bit more to give a more detailed response. But based off what it is right now, I love this frame. it's fun to fly, and it was a blast to build. And with that, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.